Welcome to Between the Brows podcast, presented by Buckventures Outdoors, where the guys talk about hunting, God, and everything in between. We've got a great show for you today, so sit back, enjoy, and let's get right into it.
Well, welcome back to episode 7 of Between the Brows. We got a pretty good show today. I think we've been trying to do it for a while and finally pulled it off.
We scared up a good one today.
Yeah, we got a good one. Before we start, just let everybody know this episode is brought to you by somebody.
Grand
Lake Vacation Properties. Yeah. Alan Moore and Vicky and their son Nathan. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, they're up at Grand Lake. Actually, that's where we have a house, and it's so awesome. And they have several, not just on Grand Lake, but a ton of properties up there. And they are super host. They will take care of you.
We got places on the golf course, the Lake Hudson, on the river. So you can go fishing, play golf, do whatever you want to do. So be sure to go to grandlakeproperties.com. You can use code BVOTV for 10% off. So with that, today's show, our next guest, he is a 3-time Church League Hockey MVP. He's the brother-in-law to Carrie Underwood and is the co-founder of the Catchin brand. Ladies and gentlemen, Bud Fisher.
I told him he should say it's Carrie Underwood's niece.
What an intro. 3-time Church League MVP. I like that. I was just telling a story. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm excited to catch up and spend the time together. I was at a Peterborough Pete's game, which is my hometown, and they're in the OHL finals now against the London Knights. And I was telling a story about one of the last times I played Church League. I grabbed one of the guys. I was playing forward. I was a goalie my whole hockey career. I was playing forward on this particular game because it's more fun for me to get out and play forward once I kind of retired. I grabbed this guy that I went to church with. He was on the other team, and we started to fight. Now, this was a play fight. We were just kind of hitting each other really light and just kind of going through the motions, but not actually fighting. And we were swinging each other around, and we fall to the ice. We get back up, and there was blood across the boards and blood down his jersey. And I was surprised as anybody in the rink that this guy was just gushing blood out of his nose and in a Church League game. And I had no idea what happened. I think he just got an inopportune bloody nose. He had to go off the ice. And
so how many people were watching?
I don't know. There was nobody in the stands. The guys on both benches were like, I thought that they were just joking. Guy comes off with blood all down his jersey. It was classic.
That's a little backsliding.
I wouldn't say 3-time Church League champion, but I would say 1-time Church League champion with the belt.
A little backsliding going on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on. We got a lot to, I think, dive into over the next little bit. But I guess first, we'll just start off with you and Jeff's relationship and how y'all met.
So, heck, I tell you what, I think I saw your first Catching Deers video, and, we all just thought it was hilarious because we all have dealt with that, and we'll get into Catching Deers in a little bit. But I think ATA is where we met, and the way I remember it, and I don't remember things well, but I remember just locking eyes with you, talking to you, and we sat and talked like we'd known each other, and it was just kind of a deal. And so is that kind of how you remember it?
Yeah, it was a little more vivid for me, though. We started Catching Deers in 2016, and I was pretty wide-eyed and bushy-tailed at this ATA show going around, and we were giving away Catching Deers hats. Of course, then all we had were the black and white foam trucker hats, giving them away, and people were wearing them, and we're meeting different personalities and seeing people that own stores and, getting to hold all the new bows, and everything was all brand new. And I remember we sat down, it was you and I and David Blanton, and we had a conversation for well over an hour. And I don't remember exactly what we talked about, except for just talking about general deer hunting and stuff like that. But I remember the whole time sitting on that couch and going, I'm talking to Jeff Hanker and David Blanton. I was like, what has happened right now? Yeah. And I was just blown away. And that feeling, hasn't gone away. The relationships that, God has given me through this has been pretty wild.
Well,
That was
it's funny.
The first time in the hunting industry that I really felt like, wow, somebody's reached out and then embraced what we're doing, and just real humble, down to earth guys. And I walked away on cloud nine. So I'll forever be grateful for our relationship.
Yeah. When I remember too, back even when I started walking into that ATA, I know how you felt. You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know whatever. And then just to, when people did look you in the eye and talk to you, I know, Daniel, we can go back to that time, and you're just, like I said, I always described it as it was so big, the ATA was, that you couldn't hardly even see over the carpet, it felt like. And then, now it's shrunk.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing just to walk around. And like he said, I remember his first one meeting David and Bill Jordan, and just overwhelmed because you'd watched them on TV forever,
Yeah.
And so, and then how, like you said, it tends to shrink a little bit as you've been there a little while.
And I bet it's done that for you a little bit now, ain't it, bud? Shrunk a little bit.
Yeah, well, we haven't been in a few years now to that show, and it's been too bad. Some of the major manufacturers haven't been there of late and things, but it's certainly one of those shows that everybody in the industry seems to be there. It was really, for us, it was COVID that we had troubles with travel and all the rest of it. I don't want to get into the politics of all of that, but that made it very challenging for us. So it seems like it's back now and we're able to go. But yeah, it's funny how the first year it's, you shake hands with somebody and say hello. And then the next year you have, at least it's been so quick for me over the last 5-6 years that, then it's, you stop and you chat for a little while, and then the following year have dinner, and these relationships start to progress. And then, you start to see how small the industry really is,
Yeah.
So, but it's something that I'm forever grateful to be a part of. That's for sure.
Well, then I think he came and hunted in Ohio with you in 2016 or 17?
Well,
Was the year you shot 80?
Yeah, it was the year I shot 80 because, that's what I would bring up is I've taken a few people hunting over the years, and it's the most nerve-wracking. You've taken a ton. It's the most nerve-wracking thing in the world to me. So Bud and I set this up. Obviously, I get 80 on camera on the north side of the road or the west side of the road, the 100 acres, and I'm just going after him. I done forgot about Bud in a sense. But I remember Bud coming in, and I think we had 17 sets hung on that side of the road, which was really the better farm. I mean, it's the, and they're obviously right across the road.
It's the more huntable side for sure.
And but Bud gets there, and we've learned this since, Bud, that you've been there. After November 1st, that farm gets tough. If we're there October 24th to November 1st, boy, it's killer. But we come in, it's right around November 1st, 2nd, because you got there a few days after I'd already seen 80, but you got into a tough hunt over there. But beautiful farm.
Oh, yeah. Well, not the first day. The first day we saw 7 or 8 bucks or something, and they were cruising that hillside that we were sitting on. It was like, oh, boy, welcome to Ohio. And then the next day, we were sitting in a timber stand down on the bottom, and 1 buck slipped behind us, and we saw 1 doe in front on a full day sit. So that was tough. And then the next day, I think we got rained out the next day. I remember going to, we ate lunch at a convenience store and went to a laundromat because we were just absolutely got soaked. Yeah, that was a nightmare of a hunt. And then the following day, I don't know if you remember, I hope you don't, the deer that I shot, and it came in on the last day. It came right down that creek, hopped over a fence, beautiful set, pine stand behind us, creek in front with just kind of a hay field out. The sun setting behind, and this deer jumped the fence and came right down the creek, and I schwacked it. Didn't go 20. And that deer, I said, we got him. I said, I don't know if you're going to be upset with me, Jeff, but we shot him. You came up just like itching to see what was in the tailgate, because I think you're a little nervous that we shot 80. We let the tailgate down, and it was this just junker, like 90-inch, maybe generous 90-inch, like 3.5-year-old that had just had like, witch fingers and like knobs and everything on it. And I said, I hope you're not upset, but I didn't think it was going to be anything you were ever going to shoot, and I was happy with it, so I let her fly.
Well, I remember that day, and then, I was, again, I think to this day, I thought it was a great deer to shoot, and with the set there and the beauty of that, that pine tree is gone now, Danny. I don't even know if you knew that. They bulldozed that over.
All of them.
You were the last one to set in the stand, and it is no
Oh, no
longer
way.
the trees down with the stand now.
Yeah, it's all gone.
But it
To
was
this day, it's the prettiest stand I've ever hunted out of.
yeah, it's beautiful.
It's awesome.
And Ryan did a great
Yeah.
job laying the footage down. And that's when y'all were kind of, which will bring us to the next point. But y'all had kind of started out a way and that you were filming for catching deers. Which brings us to that. I just and I want you guys to both elaborate before Bud even talks, because I know from a 25-year-old to a 50-year-old
26.
26. Okay,
Sorry.
that's a compliment.
Oh,
Yeah,
But
you won't be complaining in a few years about that.
But catching deers and when it came out, it was just so fresh, because I just know that as the first time I sit down, Bud, and watch the video, I'm just thinking, they get it. Someone, because we're all at that Christmas party, and they're like, "What y'all been doing?" "Well, we've been hunting." "Y'all catch anything?" You're like, "How do you even respond to this?" So when y'all came out with that fresh look, and obviously the humor behind it and the lighter side of hunting, which I truly believe, Bud, at that time, that particular time, more than any other time, we needed that lighter side. It was kind of, I hate to say it, but it's true. There's so many, and still is, but ego driven. And it was just a way to look and even check yourself and go, man, I hope we ain't got an ego. I don't know what y'all thought of it when y'all first saw it.
Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I mean, I thought it was absolutely perfect because I don't know how many times we've said it. You travel all over, and everybody always says the catching deer deal, and it was quite fun to watch. Just the pure humor of it. We watched some of them earlier to prepare for this, and we're still laughing. We've seen them 10 times. So,
Yeah, I actually seen, what was it one? We seen one, Bud, that we've never seen ever. It was
really?
the lettuce.
Oh yeah, I
And
didn't see
the
it.
tomato.
Yeah,
and
the vegan hunter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, we were rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what was
we
your
had a lot of that's probably my favorite to date that we've done was the vegan hunter.
Really?
We had so much fun doing that. We were going through Walmart getting all these vegetables and everything, and one of the employees, this big old lad, just had his eye on us, watching us, and we were cracking jokes and coming up with things on the fly as we were grabbing these pieces of bok choy and carrots and all the rest of it, and he was just howling laughing. And so we had just a ton of fun with that whole video. We still do on all of the stuff we do, but it's transitioned now a little bit into some other areas of focus. But we certainly, between that and doing Catching Deers Takes New York City, what we were asking all of the all of the city slickers about. Like there was one guy, for example, that he said, he's like, "Oh, I've cut a deer before." "Oh yeah, I was with my grandpa." Like, "Oh, how did you manage it? Like, how did you sneak up?" He goes, "Oh, it was real docile. It was just docile." Like, it's just like these people are just trying. You run a camera and they'll tell you whatever you want to hear. So
God.
we signed off with people with saying, "Hey, would you mind congratulating the state of Pennsylvania on legalizing catch and release deer hunting?" And they're like, "Congratulations, Pennsylvania!"
Has this aired?
So
has this aired yet?
Oh yeah. It's on
seen it.
YouTube. Yeah,
I don't know if
it's
I've
on
seen it either.
YouTube. So
Well, and
we
guys-
started.
Guys, if you haven't watched this before we even go, Catching Deers, you got to go check out YouTube. Y'all got a ton of followers, subscribers. You got a ton of views. But you guys, Bud Fisher, Catching Deers, make sure and go. And it sounds
hilarious.
like I need to go there. I haven't seen them
Yeah,
all.
it's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I guess with that,
Yeah,
Bud. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we've been doing it for a little while now. It's gone fast, but there's a lot on there between Catching Deers and Rut Daniels. There's a lot there. So,
I guess with that, how did that come about? How did Catching Deer start? From the beginning, what the idea that brought that to
yeah.
life?
So, my brother Mike was living in Nashville, Tennessee, and he was playing hockey there, and he got booted. He shot a 196-inch deer on a farm that he and his wife had just bought.
Mm-hmm.
And he put up a camera for the first time and said, "Bud, there's 200-inch deer here on the farm that we bought." I'm like, "There's no chance. Like, no way." He's like, "I'm serious." He sends me the picture. It was, he was 4 inches shy, but he was 196. He shot it that year. And then his wife said, "I don't think I want you deer hunting on our home property. I want this to be a preserve." And Mike said, "Okay, but I'd like to buy a piece of property that I can hunt on. And then she said, yeah, go for it. So we got this, Mike picked up this hunt camp in Kentucky that we go up to every year. And so it's become a tradition since 2014, maybe, that every year we go up there, and that's really the kickoff, the official kickoff of deer season. We have friends go up there. We do Bible studies on the porch in the morning, and it's really a feed into your soul type of weekend. And then it's a nice little bonus that there's some pretty big bucks there. So we've been doing that for a few years, and we had one of our good friends, Austin Castleman, from Nashville, come in. He's like, I've done a little bit of stump sitting, but I haven't hunted a whole lot. So, I'd like to come along for the weekend. I won't shoot anything. I won't even hunt, but I just want to see what this hunt camp's all about. So he came up, and he comes in the first night after the hunt, kind of kicks the door open with his foot, carrying his stuff in, and goes, "You boys catch anything?" And that was just, you could hear like the record screech, just, and so we made fun of him the rest of the weekend, obviously, and so we gave him the gears. And it became like one of those things with the guys that was just funny. And so we all left, and we'd send messages. Mike's like, I got back into the locker room, for training camp. The first thing I walked in the door, one of the guys said, "Did you catch anything?" And so it became kind of this joke, and we used the hashtag, and our group texts back and forth. It's like, "Heck of a weekend, boys! Congrats! Austin on your buck, whatever. Mike, excited to be back again. Hashtag catching deers." And so that was what it was until the following year. About a week before, I had made up these black and white foam trucker hats that just had catching deers and big, bold, lettering across the front. And we had to stop and pick them up at the screen printer on the way up to camp. And we made 6 of them, which we call the original 6. And hockey guys will get that reference. There was 6 teams in the NHL when it first started. And so those were the original 6. But we had those made up, and as we were driving into camp thinking these things are just the greatest, wearing our, big, bold catching deers hats, we just kind of said, has anybody done anything with this? To your point, Jeff, you talked about timing, and it is 100% timing. Has anybody ever done anything with this catching deers thing? And we came across like maybe one meme, and it was some guy that was just like, and it said like when somebody asked if he caught anything, that was the only thing we could find. So we immediately were like, well, let's make some clothes and let's see what happens. And it was just kind of this pie in the sky fun thing that we were going to do and make a couple hats. And we decided that we'd get a couple hundred hats made and throw them on, a website and make a video. But nothing really happened for the first little bit. It was always in the back of my mind. Austin was CEO of his own company. Mike was playing in the NHL. So if anybody was doing any work, it was going to be me. So I was the one that had a little bit more time. I was in a sales role, actually working for Austin at the time. And so I was pushing this a little harder than anybody else, and said, you know what, well, I'll write a script and come up with this video, and I'll build a website, and we'll figure out who's going to ship these hats out. And we launched that first video that you were talking about. We called it our brand anthem, but it was just our first Catchin' Deers video. And we launched that on a Facebook page with 0 content that myself and like 2 buddies shared on our own personal page. And we had a website, just a basic website with a few photos and 1 hat that you could buy for $20 and free shipping. And that video blew up and went viral. I don't know now with reposts and everything how many views it had, but I do remember early on, like it had 50,000 views by noon, and I was just like, that was more than I thought it would ever get. And then it was 300,000 by the time I went to bed, and it was 1 million the next day, and ended up at 5 million or something like that. And so we were sold out of hats like perpetually until after Christmas. And then so we went, okay, so it's this, people identify with this, and people are liking our way of communicating, and that we take things pretty lightly, or we say take your hunting seriously and yourself lightly. So we're passionate about it. We love big deer, but at the same time, it's really a conduit to our relationships. It's something that we get to share together, and that's what we were communicating, and that resonated with people. So the brand kind of took off from there 6 years ago, and now I'm now I'm doing the Buckventures podcast, for crying out
Yeah,
loud. So
we'll get
so we've been
1,500
blessed.
we'll get 1,500 views here. So
2,000.
That's pretty awesome.
2,000.
no, I tell you, I don't know if y'all have ever even referenced this, but I take what you said and obviously I'm gonna be careful because the Bible is it, but it stands on its own. But it's kind of, as I look at taking it lightly, taking your hunting serious and taking hunting lightly. It's kind of like in Luke 9:23, when you're picking up your cross and you're carrying it daily, but it's dying to self. You know what I'm saying? And that's almost what that is. I mean, that's what it is. It's just that picture to me of that. And again, that's getting out there, but it just that's come to my mind a few times when I hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, post a video with no followers or 2 followers, and then get to 5 million views. I would say that's the Lord blessing that for sure. And
Oh yeah, certainly. And that's what we said is it was so blatantly obvious to us. By the time we went to ATA, 2 months after we started the business, it was like, okay, God, like this wasn't. A business plan genius. This wasn't anything but your favor. So, we're in for whatever you got here, and we'll do our best to honor and glorify you through it. Lead us, lead the company. It's yours. What do you want us to do? And there's been fruit from that. It's been really a wild ride, and we've seen some just incredible things happen in people's lives. I got a message yesterday, and this happens, fairly frequently, where somebody reaches out to a brand in the space and says, "Hey, I'm really struggling with my faith, and I'd like to talk to somebody. Can I have a conversation with you?" And so for that to be kind of some of the fruit that comes out of that, that's pretty humbling to be, to have that happen and have the opportunity, like I know you guys do, to go and speak at events and speak truth in a world that doesn't put truth first, and just to go and say, "Hey guys, this is the word of God, and this is what it says, and this is what I've built my life on, and I think you should too." And to have people respond to that is it just never gets old. It's just a humbling experience. So we certainly feel very blessed to be to have God put us in this position.
Well, and that's where I do want to stop here and talk a little bit about is, in a world, like you said, truth is, it's everyone, they interpret their own truth in a sense. I mean, a lot of people will say, "Thank you, Lord," they shoot a deer, and then they're GDing and F-bombing that night, or, whatever it is. And it's not right. It's not what the Bible teaches. It's not, that truth of, obviously Jesus does love us, but there's more to it than that. The gospel is not the gospel unless we talk about it all. And that's what I always loved you, Bud, with, I do know your doctrine, and you put your trust in him, and you are living it out and not just using it, And so, we've done the same. I mean, we've had hiccups 100% along the way. I never want to say that our company and myself, and for sure, I've been up and down. I mean, God has had to take me to the woodshed more than once. But my goal is to live for him. There's just everything we do to put him in the middle of it and at the forefront of it. And anyway, so again, just an opportunity for me to make it about Christ even today. And that's what I want to do. It is, and again, it's not that, if you're listening out there, it's not that, if you follow the Lord, you're going to have a big company like Catchin Deers. That's not it. The Bible says we'll be persecuted, just as Christ was. So at times that can happen. It doesn't mean that, but it is where we're supposed to be regardless. And, joy comes from not circumstances. It comes from joy in the Lord. Happy is the happenings. But anyway, again, don't let me get on too much of a soapbox here. But
the blessing is not the hunting or the company. The blessing is that God has used it to bring me and us closer to him. And that we get to be a part of what God is doing, in the world and be a part of other people's lives. That's what the blessing is. And it took me owning the company to realize that that opportunity was already there even before, even before we had a platform. And so shame on me, in my ignorance prior, saying, even of my brother who was this, an NHL hockey player, and saying, well, if I had that kind of platform, of course I'd, be leading a Bible study and I'd be sharing my faith. And, and I think what I've learned in the process is that despite, some influence that you can have, the most influence you'll have and the most impact that you can have is in the lives of those people that are around you every day. And so that's where, the focus needs to be as well. And so I feel, that's something that I've definitely learned in the process, and I felt very kind of foolish for that, that being revealed to me in this process.
Well, praise the Lord that we all see it. I mean, we're all going to stumble again, and I like what you said about, the big picture out there to the public, but the people you're right here with, just like this group here that we have in here. We're rubbing elbows all the time, and I can preach it all I want, but I'm either living it, and that's the only way they'll believe it in me, and vice versa. They're going to live it if they're going to preach it. So we sharpen one another, obviously.
I forget who it was that said it, but and I'm going to paraphrase it, but to many folks, you're the only Bible they'll read, right? And so I found that very powerful.
Sure.
Well, I guess, we talked about obviously how it started, the quick, I guess, rise to not fame, but just a fast growth. I guess now where Catchin Deers, obviously it's a big-time clothing brand, and that probably not just the outdoor industry. I'm sure there's people who don't hunt that might even be into this stuff. Where is it at now, the company wise, and kind of going forward? What are the goals for it?
Yeah. So we, to that point, we continually are surprised with, where people are wearing it and how they're wearing it. We have one hoodie that we call the insurrection hoodie because there was a CNN broadcast, or maybe it was Fox News, I can't remember, but during that July 6th insurrection, that somebody's doing an interview, and the guy comes out behind him and is like, yeah, doing all this wearing a Catchin Deers hoodie. so we didn't know whether to be proud or whether to be, a little bit nervous about that one. We've had people, that they'll send us, there's this like PSA that like a local liquor store was robbed and somebody was wearing a Catchin Deer shirt. And
I'm like, oh my gosh.
It has them on the camera wearing it. But we've been very, very fortunate. And so where we're at now is we're continuing to grow the apparel brand. We want to really broaden our offering. We've done a lot of, we've done some outerwear, some flannels. Jeff, you've got the sweater on there. We did the sweatpants, and we focused in really in a lot of our retail growth that we've had. We focused in on hats and t-shirts and hoodies because they were kind of a staple, and that helped to grow that retail channel for us. But what we're moving forward towards is kind of a full collection, everything that you could wear from jackets to vests to pants and shorts and bathing suits. And that's what we want to be, really. Anything that you can wear when you're not in the tree stand, and a few things that you can wear when you are. So really a lifestyle, full breadth lifestyle apparel. We continue to grow towards that. And then the other side of our business is we've got the apparel company, but we've also got a media company as well, much like yourself, where we make content for consumers, and we partner with brands as well. And so we're continuing to grow that out. And that means, more programming, more offering, and new entities as well, coming up with new concepts. We have the Rut Daniels videos and content, the Rut Daniels show. There's a lot of places that we can take that, from hunting into, say, fishing and other things, as well as introducing new characters and new programming. So there's we've made some key hires in our organization that will really help us to get to the next level, that have a lot of experience in the media space and in growing very successful media companies. So that's an area of focus for us.
Well, now, when did you hire Rut? I knew that you guys brought him on, a few years ago, or
90 before the Olympics, 96 maybe.
Okay.
No, 2018, he did his first video with us, hired full time in 2019 to create content weekly and try to shoot a little bigger deer than maybe any of the other guys would. So, but he's not too picky. As long as it has loins, that guy is shooting it and it's going in the freezer. So.
Right. Well, how's he to work with? I mean, is he pretty easy? Has he got an ego? Is he just your best buddy?
Oh, as long as he's in a tree stand, you don't have to talk to him. He's fine. So.
I got you. Well,
the nice thing is you don't have to buy him new gear all the time, right? He just wears the blue jeans and the old jacket, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Just needs the newest bow, and he's happy.
Well, obviously the guy can shoot. Watching was it lane 6 or 7, just heartbreak of him shooting the wrong target. And obviously he hit where he was aiming, but how in the world did that happen?
Oh, you know what? Every time he tells the story, there's a different excuse. He blamed the Russians at one point. He blamed the judges at another. He said that there was a miscommunication somewhere. So we don't exactly know. But sometimes you get in those high pressure situations. I can empathize with the guy because I've done. I was on a trip one time in South Dakota. With one of our partners, and I had 3 days to shoot a mule deer with a bow in South Dakota on spot and stock. And on the second day, my bow just wasn't shooting exactly where I wanted it to. I wasn't really happy, so I was down at the range before he left to take a few shots. And I was hitting about 6 inches low at like 60 yards, and that's a shot you'll take on a mule deer. So sure. I was like, gosh, I really need to be at 56 if he's at 60. I'm doing all this math, and I was thinking so much I wasn't thinking. That I drew back and I hold my anchor and I executed just a perfect shot, just an absolute bomb at 60. I just didn't put an arrow in my bow. Oh. And so, so my bow blows up in my hand. I derailed. A string came off it. I bent my axle pin and everything else. And so I think it was Ryan Hawkins that said, you're thinking so much you weren't thinking. And I guess that may be what happened with Rut.
Yeah.
So
that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I went into Shields and I said, hey, I dry fired my bow, came off, and he put the string back on it. I said, believe me, I'm a professional. The guy just laughed. It's like, good thing I'm not a pro. I'm just an entertainer.
Well, we have a few people coming hunting with us this year, guys. I don't know. So Cody Johnson, the country western singer's coming, so we're excited about him. And then we got Bowtech coming, but I think the Rut Daniels bud has actually agreed to come. I'm sure you already knew that, but
I heard about that. I got something to say about that myself. I don't know how he got the invite. Maybe it's because he's famous and I'm not. I don't know. We're a little disappointed. But that's all right.
It's Olympian against a 3-time church league hockey MVP.
Yeah.
Enough said.
What's better for ratings?
Yeah.
Well, we're a little bit spooked and excited at the same time for him coming.
You should be. Yeah.
Well, the good news is he said he's not too picky, so we got a couple 120s, 130s. I'm sure. I mean, we got some smaller too.
Yeah.
He can come.
That's where I'm scared.
You kidding me?
It's not Cole. It's not the big ones. I'm scared. I'm afraid of putting him somewhere and he just punched something really quick.
Well, you said earlier there's a lot of pressure on guiding. I mean, at least this way you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
I reckon.
That's true. That guy's got freezers in 6 different states, so you don't have to worry about him. Yeah, not shooting anything. Yeah.
Well, I think he's going to come in November, and we actually we don't know for sure. Rut put in for Kansas. We'll see if he gets drawed.
Getting tougher.
Yeah, it is getting tougher. But we do have 3 really good farms there, and I'm excited. We're going to try to put him on something good, and it'll be up to him. Obviously, if he shoots a year and a half old deer, even if it's Rut, he ain't coming back.
No.
Oh. Okay, I'll make sure to pass that along. But a year and a half old deer, I don't think he'd travel that far for something so loinless. So if you got a big old mature buck with some good shoulder roasts on him, then then he'd think about slinging an arrow at that, I'm sure.
Well, we got a doe problem, Cole.
We
So
got a
we
major
got,
doe problem.
I think he'll get 4 does, 3 anyway.
Yeah, I think you can buy extra tags. So I don't know the number, but
so
3 or
we'll
4.
loin him
Oh,
up.
sharpen your knife, then. Sharpen your knife. He's going to be slinging.
Yeah. That's going to be cool. No, I am really excited about him coming, and you know, I don't know what to expect really, other than just I do know that he's a fun guy, and just don't know how much we'll connect or not.
See if his ego gets in the way.
Hey, I don't think it is. I mean, you kind of think of him as having an ego, but then once you kind of get to know him, he
Maybe
really
he's just
does.
super humble and you just don't know it.
Yeah, bleeding
Well,
humility.
he's the best. He's the best hunter in the world. Just ask him.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So, kind of wanted to bring this up too is obviously, you know, your brother Mike and playing for the NHL and stuff, but he, I remember him doing, becoming second, I believe, you know. Was that what
I
it was
Am
called?
Second.
I Am Second, yeah.
I am second. Yeah.
And then, you know, just him being an older brother and the example he set, and probably your parents and that kind of stuff, but in the Lord. And so my question for you is, you know, kind of what did that look like for you, Bud, growing up? And when did you, you know, become a Christian? When God become your Lord?
Yeah, so I came from a Christian home. I was very fortunate, blessed to come from the home that I did. Both parents are super solid. My mom is a prayer warrior. My dad is a leader by example, and they both are, you know, always giving. And so that was modeled to me very early on in growing up. Our home was always open. In fact, my grandparents' home was always open to missionaries and always trying to give in any way that they could. And so I saw that, you know, that hands and feet aspect of our faith very, very early. I accepted Christ when I was 7 years old, at home, doing our reading and devotions before bed with my mom. And at that point, I mean, I've got a 6-year-old that accepted Christ as well. And there's lots of questions and lots of digging, but until you go through those trials in your life and you realize that you're not enough to make it on your own and you can't figure things out and you're lost and you're a sinner and you got to deal with the consequences of your sin, both, you know, in the present and eternally, that's when things really start to become real. And it was the same for me. I remember being in university, and I'd always lived, you know, at home up until then, as most people do. I was in the hockey world, but I was very, very, very dedicated. I didn't, you know, a lot of my teammates in hockey would party and go out and things. And one was, you know, and in high school, and one was my faith. And two, I was so dedicated to my craft that I just never would put myself in those positions. And so going away and being, you know, without parents or without that influence at university, it was, I remember hitting a point in my life where it was, you know, God said to me very clearly, okay, Bud, there's 2 paths you can take right now. You can take this one with all the guys and the, you know, and the girls and the fun and the partying and everything else, or you can take this path over here that I've called you to, and you can obey, and you can take the path that I've created, you know, I've designed for you in your life. And so that was a real crossroads. And I said, okay, well, that's what I want to do. I want to follow you. And so I'd been asked at that point to lead the Fellowship of Christian Athletes at my school, to start a Bible study with some men. And I decided to spend my time doing those things, and preparing for those things instead of going and doing what hockey players in college typically do. And so that was really when it became a little bit more difficult for me, and there was a little bit more persecution and a little bit more pressure then. And then, you know, into my work life and career from there, being married, being a dad, that's when, you know, faith becomes, you know, a mandatory for me. You know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. But there's been moments along the way. You said earlier, ups and downs and closer and farther from God. C.S. Lewis, you know, talks about the laws of undulation. There's times when you'll feel real close, and there's times when you'll feel real far away. But the only thing that you can keep constant is is your faith and your obedience. Same author says there's nothing more powerful than a Christian that doesn't feel the presence of God but still obeys. And so that's been something that I've been working through for 36 years in my life. But he's just made himself so real and so known on these various occasions through my life. There's one time that I tell the story a little bit if I speak at events and stuff, but I remember I was I was leading actually a team selling software. I was living in Ottawa, and it wasn't going well. We were not in a position to succeed. I wasn't, a very good sales manager, and it just wasn't going well. And I knew the writing was on the wall. I was going to lose my job. I was going to be let go or fired, or our team was going to be dismantled. I knew that there was layoffs coming. I was going to have to lay off a bunch of people on my team, which was not fun. And I had questions about my marriage at the time because I wasn't communicating with my wife where I was at with all of this stuff. And, I just felt like, and looking back, it's like all of those things are manageable and God's got all of that. That's easy stuff, but when you're in it, it's like, that's the weight of the world. And so I felt that, and I was just in a deeply emotional place. I was riding the city bus into work with people all around me and decided to put my headphones on and worship God in that moment. The moment that I felt the most in despair. What was I going to do? The world's fallen down. Well, you know what? I put on Casting Crowns, Praise You in the Storm. I was like, Lord, it's a storm all around me, but I got nothing else to do, but I can sing your praises. And so I sat there on that bus, and I wasn't singing out loud on that bus, but I was praising in my heart, and the tears just came. And I felt God in that moment like I've never felt God in my life before. Just wrap his arms around me and say, I got you, and I can't explain it. Grown man on a city bus with tears rolling down both cheeks, and people are like, what is like I just lost, somebody in my life. But I remember thinking, this is a moment that will be forever, a point of reflection whenever I feel like, what, God doesn't have this, or God, it doesn't feel like God's there, or I don't know if I'm going to get through this moment. I can just think back to that. And it's just that reassurance that everything that he said in his word is true, and I can count on it. Well, that's a big thing that I can certainly look back on. And that's not the only one. I could go on and on with more, but that's one of those moments where, coming from a good home and good childhood, and I was a semi-successful hockey player and did well in school, and got married young to a girl that I was madly in love with, and everything was great until the world went absolutely upside down. And then it was like, okay, this is my not my first crisis, but the biggest crisis that I'd been through, and God is right beside me.
Well,
and
God
so that was
says in James 1, count it joy, my brothers, when you find yourself in those trials and tribulations, not if, and when. And, as a Christian, we are going to continue to be in those, and we continue to look towards him. And I really like what you said, because it goes right along with, obviously the word of God. It's, sometimes walking in the Spirit, sometimes you have that. You're just walking in the Spirit, and that's the easy parts. The hard ones are exactly what you said, when all of a sudden you don't feel God. You're sitting there, but you still have to be obedient, and that is, you got to continue on, and you got to fight through it. It's like Paul said, you keep fighting the fight, and you keep your eyes on the prize. And so I would just encourage anyone listening, and all of us sitting in here, that, we know trials are coming. We know that they're coming. We know you're going through one, whoever you're around, there's problems in the world, but Christ is enough. And I think that's what we got to be careful with too, is a lot of us are those get her done guys, just like you described yourself. You were raised right, you were get her done, I'm going to go get her done. And sometimes trying to pull up your boots, we think that we can do it that way, and that is not. You have to put your trust in Christ
and let somebody else steer.
Yeah, you can't do it yourself, and again, that is where I think God puts us in those trials and tribulations at times to remind us. I mean, I wish I could learn Bud more on the mountain, but somehow he's got to put me in the valleys a lot of times to teach me.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Well, James is a favorite of mine, actually, and they talk about the refining fires in James and what that actually was. And I didn't realize this until in the last year, that refining fire. What the silversmiths would do is they would take their silver and they had to make sure that it was pure before they could make anything. So they put it over top of fire and they heated it up and melted it, and the imperfections would rise to the surface. And then they would take all the imperfections out of it, and they would take it out and they would take out the imperfections, and they knew that it was pure when they heated it up. They heated it up so many times that when it was melted, they could look down and see the reflection in it. So how powerful is that? That God is going to heat you up, and he's going to be hard, and, he might melt down might melt you down a few times in the process, but he's taking out all the imperfections. So when he looks at you and others look at you, he sees him. And so that's one of my favorite, one of my favorite, in scripture. So,
well, and it just goes back to, it's faith alone in Christ alone. It's not by works. It's, him regenerating their heart. So, man, praise God that, just listening to your stories and we all come to Christ different. I do like the deal and encouragement for others too. You said you were 7 years old, as I was 8. But God, that's when he started that work in me. And I think, as I went through, it got real later on. And I even questioned my salvation at times to say, man, I'm not doing good enough to be saved. And I had to refocus that it's not by works. It is, and really, I think he started a good work in me at 8. I don't know exactly when my heart was regenerated, but I just know today, I'm standing here today and I can see fruit in my life. And I want to turn around and learn from where I've been, but I sure don't want to be in sin today and turn around to my 8-year-old self and go, well, I got saved when I was 8. I'm okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing too, just kind of a blessing that, he talked about he was in college, he had all his buddies going out partying, doing all this, and then to have the knowledge, or I guess the desire to not go do that, that's, I think that's just a blessing, because there's no telling where you could be. If you did go do that, obviously you're not the example you want to be, but I know today's world.
Well, that was kind of what you did too, wasn't it, Cole? You were an athlete and you were the same way. I kind of thought of you.
I didn't play. I decided not to go do college sports. I just went straight to college. And I went to I went to Texas A&M as a big school. And, every school is a party school. It doesn't matter where you go. Tailgates, there's 110,000 people out on the lawn drinking and, drinking games and all that. And I don't know. I just had a desire to not do that, which I think nowadays the number of people who do that is getting smaller and smaller, or it seems like it's getting smaller and smaller. So, just kind of, I think that's a blessing that, you had the desire to not.
Well, and I think it goes back to even what he said, his mom and dad, they were examples, as I know yours were. And that's just encouragement as parents, and I know Bud, what he's going through now, he's raising little ones, and I've been there. And you want to talk about digging into your faith, because you're responsible for these and you love them so much. And I see a lot of kids change mom and dad's lives that weren't Christians. I mean, because all of a sudden they come along, and I think God uses that at times. And I know you got a brand new one too that you're having to teach.
Yeah, and then we foster and have adopted kids too. So it's been it's a real struggle. We got 7 kids, so just trying to find the time to individual spending time with that is a real struggle. I mean, life, but just trying to do the best I can, especially our foster kids. It might be the only chance they ever get to hear the Lord, and the only chance they ever get to go to church. We had them for a little while, and they went back, and it took us. They've been with us 5 months now before we finally got them to pray. We make every one of our kids pray before dinner. And it takes a long time. I think it takes me, and look, I don't miss too many meals, but it takes them like 15 minutes before we can eat dinner, because everybody's got to say their prayers.
You eat a lot of cold casserole.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but we finally got them. I mean, they started last week, and now it goes through every one of them take their turn to pray. And I mean, just the little things. It's a big win in our house, but it's
sure.
Just trying to
praise God for that.
Yeah. And maybe the only time they ever
for you,
get
man. That's the most important. That's the most important thing you can do. Adoption and fostering. That's a model of Christ right there. That's awesome. I've always had a real soft spot for that. So
it's not easy.
Thank you for what you're doing. That's awesome.
I can promise you that. We adopted our 2 nieces, which have been a blessing, and then these 3 we would probably adopt, but the state has different plans for that. You know how that is. We were in foster care just because we had the opportunity to, and we raised these for 3 years, and they went home, 2 of them, and then we adopted my 2 nieces. So God's timing is perfect, and then they got taken again and coming back. So they told us the other day that we'll have them 6 months to a year probably right now, and so we'll just do the best we can with them while we got them, and and that's all we really can do, and then be there for them when they need it.
Yeah, you went from 1 kid, right, to like 7 in a matter of
Well, his story, buddy, they couldn't have kids forever. They could not have kids. We had prayed for them. They had tried, and then boom.
Yeah. So we went from 1 to 7 in 3 years. Yeah. So that's
that's wild.
The age group's been the big challenge personally, because we have 14 and a 3 that are ours, and then you throw in 5 other kids between 5 and 10, and it's they've kind of already got. We always say this foundation. You know how it is. Bible always talks about the foundation. It's been really tough when they don't have a foundation. So trying to knock down all them walls to build them back up again has been the biggest struggle. So, but God can do amazing things.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, Romans 8:28. Everybody knows that. That's a big verse of mine, is that He is working everything for good to those who love Him according to His purpose. And that's a big verse to live in. I mean, man. But with that all said, where are you going hunting this year? I know you got an employee coming to us, but where are you going?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you could come film Rut.
Yeah. Rut gets to do all the hunting. I mean, I took my 6-year-old on Saturday morning for his first turkey hunt. And so I was tagged out, and I had to film those. But I said, Rob, to my oldest brother Rob, I said, we gotta fill those tags of yours, and I want to take Wesley on his first turkey hunt. So we got him fired up right off the roost, and had 3 jakes come running in. And I said, Rob, it'd be real cool if you shot a bird on his first hunt. I said, you don't have to shoot it. We'll go get on some toms, but if you want to, take them now because they're leaving. So he shot one, and Wesley, my little guy, was just fired right up. He's got his own little turkey vest and all his camo, and
how old is he now?
And he didn't move a muscle. And what's that?
How old is he now? How old?
6. Yeah. He's 6, and so he's been out with me duck hunting since he was 4. And first time I ever took him duck hunting, he had just turned 4, and we brought his little cousin along as well, and we sat for 3 hours, and we shot 1 mallard hen, and he cried when we left because he didn't want to leave. I was like, this kid might just have it. Yeah, he just loves to be in the woods. So.
Well,
yeah. But I always do a little bit of hunting around here. I got a bear hunt coming up here at home. And I always do try to get a little whitetail hunting in here at home in Ontario whenever I can. But Rut's going off to Vancouver Island in a couple weeks, doing a spot and stalk black bear with the bow. Then got some fishing trips in the summer, and then we'll do Kentucky for deer, Kansas for deer, Newfoundland for moose.
Really?
Saskatchewan whitetails, and then some waterfowl out in Saskatchewan and here in Ontario. So
Rudd is
he's got a busy schedule.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of that moose hunt.
That's where I went in Newfoundland.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Eastern.
Yeah.
So is that a gun hunt?
They say there's 4 to 6. What was it? No, 3 to 4 moose per square kilometer. So that's it's times 1.6. So you're talking like 5 to 6 moose per square mile in some areas of Newfoundland. It's just wild. So, yeah. They were introduced, and there's no natural predators there.
I got you.
And so it's just like,
No wolves or nothing there?
no wolves. I think there's black bears, and black bears will kill calves, but that's what I was watching a program on the Outdoor Channel, and that's what they said. So it must.
Oh, it's got to be. I hope it wasn't Buckventures. Oh, well, it's where, Bud. Where can people find you at? Where's your? Where would you want to push everybody to?
Oh gosh, well, Catchin Deers is on Instagram and Facebook, and catchindeers.com is a website you can get apparel from there. And then we have, my personal Instagram is at Bud Fisher, and then Rut Daniels. If you search Rut Daniels anywhere from Facebook to YouTube to Instagram or TikTok, you can find Rut there.
Well, I'm gonna actually go
you
watch
can-
it.
you
Loud
can-
and proud, and
You can use code BVO for 80% off catchindeers.com.
They'll be
I don't know if they know that or
ain't
not.
working. That ain't working.
Oh, that's not true.
Yeah.
But
No. Well, it is. It's been a pleasure, Bud. I just want you to know that we will be praying for you as you and your company and all the guys. Just thankful that you guys are out there. Like you said, you are spreading the word and being that, and that's what a Christian is Christ-like. So it just makes me feel good that you guys you're in Ontario, right? That's where you live with your family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how much are you coming
Yeah.
across right now? You have to come here a lot, or?
Yeah. Well, in the fall, very, very busy. Fall and spring quite a bit, but I know this because I have to put it on my taxes every year, which is random, but I spend between 90 and 100 days a year in the U.S. So quite a bit.
Well, there's probably 300 and some Buckventures pro staff watching this, and so we're just going to throw it out there. The last thing, tell Rut that we would like for him to come and make an appearance sometime at our annual meeting, and just come up on stage and rut it up.
I'll send him an email.
Yeah.
I'll send him an email, but I don't know if he checks it.
Well, we will see him hunting wise. We'll show him some pictures.
we'll
we
let
might
him
be able to bribe him.
Yeah.
Be
let
like,
him know.
dude, this is a booty.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's
No,
only for people that attend the meeting.
Yeah.
Well, y'all got anything else for Bud?
no, I just appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir.
Y'all be sure to check Catching Deers out, check Bud out, check Rut Daniels out. And with that, remember, as we always say, shoot by sight and walk by faith.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it so much. What you're doing and having me on, and perhaps most of all for the friendship that we've built. So thank you, guys. And I'm looking forward to doing more of this.